So what questions do we have this morning? No question's a bad question. They're all helpful. You don't know who needs to hear it. Go ahead and raise your hand or unmute and get out there. Mr. Jordan, go ahead, sir.
This would be a question primarily for electricians, but if anybody has any insight to it, I'd be interested in it. We are looking at growing our company in the EV space as well as lighting remodel space. So for example, one of the jobs that we just landed was basically retrofitting a retirement community with from fluorescent to LED lighting. And I know there's like national and regional reps that kind of sell those projects and then use installers to install them. Wondering if anybody has connections with either regional or national reps for lighting remodels in like hotels, retirement communities, apartment complexes, storage facilities, things like that. And also we get a lot of, I don't know if it's spam or anything like that for EV leads, like so installing electric vehicle chargers. And we advertise a lot for it. We do a lot of them, but I don't know, we haven't like done any like paid leads. I would assume it's a little bit like an Angie's List for EV. If anybody has a good system that they have in place that we might want to explore.
Nice. So in general summary, just EV, looking to get into EV, and then did you say exterior lighting work, stuff like that?
It's just like lighting, like a lot of like fluorescent to LED retrofit jobs.
Okay, so retrofit lighting. Cool.
And then like the EV would be like, I would assume it's like the equivalent of Angie's List for EV, but I don't know what stuff is spam, what stuff is legit. We just get kind of bombarded with all these offers all the time to sign up for our program and we'll provide leads. But I don't know what would be a good one to look into.
Nice. I see Laura, you put in the chat Q-Merit. You want to expand on that a little bit if you've used them?
We have used Q-Merit. They're a national, basically like a third-party company that directly works with the dealerships and the manufacturers, and the salespeople at the dealership push the Q-Merit platform as part of the transaction. Like Q-Merit will pay. It's kind of, well, I won't put too much of my personal opinion in it, but it's worth looking into. I think that if you want to focus specifically on EV charger, you're going to have to be networking with these companies that are tied to the manufacturers and the dealerships directly in order to get the leads. But you have to play it by their rules. Like they have a price structure that you have to adhere to, and that may or may not work for you. In my experience on some of these EV chargers where, you know, the customer's gone out and bought a Ford F-150 Lightning and their house is knob and tube with a 60 amp fuse box. Like they ain't getting an EV charger. But the dealership doesn't educate the client to do the research before they buy the vehicle. So they've bought the vehicle and now, you know, they're encumbered with a $25,000 electrical upgrade in order to be able to have a charger at their house.
Laura's 100% correct on that Q-Merit thing. We're a partner with Q-Merit as well. The problem with us dealing with Q-Merit is they pick their prices from some guy on the East Coast that doesn't even know, that haven't seen the job or anything like that. Q-Merit's great. If you're going to partner with Q-Merit, I recommend going commercial, not residential, because the resident, you have more wiggle room. You can kind of create your own environment with the commercial world. The commercial side, the residential side is like they'll say $600 for an EV charger. Master electrician, I don't do anything for $600. You know, so no. You know what I mean? And they're adamant about it, and they'll let you do custom quotes and stuff like that, but you're not, you know, you still have to play by the rules like Laura said. And that's, it's good, but but you know, I just put my numbers where they are. They can either take it or leave it, and it is what it is. Kind of how I deal with it. Cumerit's great though. And they do have leads, and they do sell it with a car. The problem is you'll get car salesmen at the dealership telling the client what it's going to cost to get their EV charger, and they have no clue at all. And so and then you combine that with the Cumerit pay structure, and it's just a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, I would be looking for something where I pay for the lead, so it's, you know, $200 for the lead or whatever, and then I negotiate directly with the customer on pricing. But I've never heard of Cumerit. That's a good one. I'll definitely look into them.
But it also depends on your area too. So, for example, us in Nevada, I'm in Reno, so the Vegas market is much different than the Reno market. And, you know, most of our EV chargers, EV clients are not necessarily in the Reno area. They're mostly in the Tahoe area, Lake Tahoe area. And so there's, you know, it all differs. And the Vegas market is way bigger than the Reno market as far as EV goes, even though the cost of living in Reno is much higher than it is in Vegas. So the people that are, you know, the amount of clients that you get in Vegas is way, you know, I got buddies of mine down in Vegas that are doing 10 times the amount of work through Cumerit than we are.
Nice. Good feedback there.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind, sounds like Cumerit's one that is pretty national. A lot of people are pretty familiar with, but I imagine there's other services out there that are very similar to Cumerit that you might be able to get in touch with that maybe give you a little bit more leeway as well as working directly with the customer. So that'd be something to look into as well, Jordan.
I'll add just one last bit to that, Jordan. So the Cumerit, it's like $350 a year that you have to pay like a subscription, and they'll send you leads. What I've done with them on scenarios where the service isn't going to be feasible for the customer to add their charger, I convert them into a customer for myself. Like we've been able to take their information and end up putting in can lighting, or so it's, you know, it's a lead to do something with.
Yeah, a lead's
How
a lead.
many? Yeah, a lead is a lead. So I think I find value for the 350, but to Damon's point, some of the price structure is a little screwy, and you can try and outsmart the system and, you know, with their pricing structure and, you know, try to make it work for you. But the biggest success we've had with getting clients for the EV stuff is nurturing those relationships with the salespeople at your local dealerships. Like take your one sheets and hand them out, you know, go to the chamber mixer when it's held at the Ford dealer and make friends with the sales manager and say, hey, you know, make some kind of deal with them. I'll refer customers to you and you refer customers to me, kind of thing.
For sure. It's really good feedback, Laura. For sure. Nice. Scott, I think you had put up your hand initially. Did you have something you wanted to add here too?
Not if it's with Scott. I didn't.
Oh.
I'm just
Okay.
I'm just listening, working on estimates. So maybe I was thinking.
Okay. Might have been a stray hand raised then. Never mind.
Yeah, and similar to what kind of what Laura was saying is similar to what we would call like our Dream 100 system, which is really just an outbound business to business kind of relationship building strategy. And so if you haven't ever implemented the Dream 100 in your business, that would be a good time and a good way to go about that. And really the Dream 100 is just all about, you know, building a list of car dealerships, other people that could maybe refer you that type of work, the EV chargers. Dealerships are the only one that come to mind right off the head, but it's like Laura said, you know, stopping by, having your one sheet, maybe show up to the dealership with a box of donuts, right? Nobody's going to get mad at you if you're showing up with some sweets. Or at least I wouldn't get mad at you if you showed up with some sweets, right? And then just stopping by, not just doing it one time, right? Just because you come by one time and you say, hey, we offer this service, that's not typically going to be for everybody going to be just, okay, well, hey, I'll start sending you, EV charger installs right away. But if they get too used to seeing you, once a month or every couple of weeks, over time, when they have, somebody that's asking for a referral, something like that, you're going to be the first person that pops into their mind. They're going to immediately think about you in your business. So, yeah, I think, Laura, what you're saying kind of hits the nail on the head with just part of it's just personal relationship building.
Totally. Nice. Mr. Stewart.
Just kind of going back to something you mentioned at the beginning, Bryce, and some people getting offers to purchase or sell their business. Is that something that is kind of part of something you guys? I haven't given that a lot of thought, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, that might be something I would give some consideration to. Is that something where you start planning now and trying to build your business to sell it? Is that kind of something you guys kind of can give some guidance on?
Great question. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think I would say maybe, I don't know, Travis, you can correct me where I'm wrong here, but I would say 80% or more of the people that we work with come in with that kind of thought in mind.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's as simple as building a business that you would enjoy owning and that truly benefits you as an owner makes it attractive to a buyer as well. So the same things that you're going to want to do to make it, like I said, enjoyable and valuable to you to own would be the things that would cause someone to want to buy it. So building your business to sell, to me, is not very different from building your business to be scalable, passively owned, things like that. And absolutely, that's something that we do get involved with whenever it comes to that point. I think Lance actually with Robert earlier this year did like a whole workshop on building a business to sell and some important principles on that. And then at the time of, if you are looking at getting numbers or insight into those things, something that Tim often likes to get involved in, Tim Redmond will like to get involved in, kind of look over numbers with folks as well and kind of give them an internal perspective, like from, kind of in your corner, hey, this is what, you can kind of see what you think you're worth, or even buying a business, that sort of thing as well, to kind of develop. But yeah, man. Yeah. Anyone else, that has started or sort of has some insight in there, feel free to jump in with some more 2 cents. But that'd be what I'd say from the Redmond growth perspective for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I'll just reiterate what Bryce has told me whenever I've talked about it, is he's like, we'll build it to where it's a valuable and you can sell it, but you won't want to because it's so passive that you're just sitting back taking money from it. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. How do you say that? Yeah. What other questions do we have this morning? That's a great one. Things scratching your mind, lessons, insights.
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Russ. I want to know, I've been doing some large jobs lately, some pretty large jobs lately. And I'm trying to prepare or plan for what to do if jobs for any reason are delayed, whether that be for weather or climate or something caused by the customer. What do you guys do, guys and ladies do when you have a job that may be going over, or you want to make sure that it doesn't take too long and be prepared for if it does. Just want to know what some of you all are doing in preparation for that.
Fletcher, are you acting as the GC or are you a subcontractor?
GC.
So give me an example.
I have an active example now. I have a customer who is acting as their own GC. So we're doing work on their house, and then another contractor they have on a job. They were supposed to be doing something in the basement, but they've now caused the structure of the home to be jeopardized. So we weren't able to actually be on site and work. That took like 3 to 4 months. So now I'm behind on that job because I haven't been able to get in there for 3 or 4 months, and now we're trying to finish it up. But the money that we brought in and the time that we spent had to make up the time we lost for that 3 months, and now it's running in with other jobs. So I just want to know how you all balance jobs that are delayed.
Well, I'm not actively involved in a situation like actively, but I just actually signed a job where they wanted to curb their costs, so they wanted to GC it themselves and hire some other people and that sort of stuff. So in my proposal, I put in big bold letters that if there are any delays caused by subcontractors that are not hired by Rocking J Construction, that we may charge them $250 a day for any delays that's keeping us from getting our work done. So that doesn't necessarily help you right now, but might help you in the future in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Like your contract should have liquidated damages in that situation. I don't know that I would take on a residential project where the homeowner is the GC.
Mm-hmm.
That is a red flag for me. But on the commercial side of things, in that scenario where you have stacking of trades, delays, you have language in your contract that protects you, and you are entitled to compensation if you have to demob and remobilize. You have equipment on rental, now you got to send it away, or you're having to pay to store materials. You're entitled to be compensated for being inconvenienced. So if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So structure your contracts in the future where you have language that protects you in those scenarios that comes up, because it's going to happen. I mean, I'm sure everybody here has a story where another trade or act of God, whatever, has really inconvenienced things.
Yeah, Fletcher, we used to do that too, where we would allow homeowners to hire some of their own subcontractors, or try to manage portions of the project on their own. And I don't know, probably in the last year, we just completely stopped doing that. The only thing we're basically, our contract reads, we're handling every single aspect from pulling the permit to finishing the job. And we just don't allow clients to hire their own subcontractors. The only exception would be a painter, because you can do that at the very end. They can do that on their own. I don't really like handling the paint anyway, even though we usually do. But we just put a stop to it because it burned us too many times with, like you said, having to wait on somebody's subcontractor, not knowing that subcontractor, but having to manage that subcontractor. It just got to be too risky, too difficult.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking for, that language or that number. I know I should be charging, but I don't know what an industry standard or expectation would be. Because now that customer is all concerned at why we're not finished. I'm like, we're three months out of being finished. That's why you're gonna have to get done while I'm doing somebody else's job. And this is what's gonna have to happen. So,
Hey, Fletcher, what we do in our contract is we have a completion date, and we say if we don't finish on time, we'll pay the customer $50 a day for a delay. So it's easy just to add the next section that says, but if we're delayed, we have a push out. So anytime there's a change order or whatever, we push our finish date out for us to protect us from having to pay that $50 a day. But you can do the same thing with them. Go, hey, look, if I don't get my job done on time, it's $50 a day. But if you delay me, it costs my company $100 a day or $200 a day or whatever it is. And you can build that in so that you can let, and it kind of helps, because it shows them that, hey, I'm not just putting this on you. If we don't do our stuff right and don't have it, but as soon as they throw a job delay up, you're going to need, I would document it. I'd go, hey, you just delayed our job. We're not picking back up for, 90 days. That extends our completion date by 90 days.
Great feedback. Yeah, Jordan, I know you had your hand raised, but so if you wanted to chime in here and then we'll go to Chris.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of say what other people had already said, that we had a handful of bad experiences working under a homeowner on just something simple as a kitchen remodel or a basement remodel. It always ends up at the end that it's a bad job. It always does. You just don't want somebody that is going to come down every time you leave the project and you're not done yet, but they're going to nitpick every little thing that's a millimeter wrong. That's just what we ran into. Because as soon as you leave, they come down and they just pull out the magnifying glass and check everything over. They can't see the vision for what it looks like right now and what the final product's going to be. You spend half the time just answering questions that you shouldn't need to even answer.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that with us a couple of meetings ago, Jordan. I forgot what you all called it, but you had like this clause where if there's a certain amount of percent of satisfaction or off by millimeters or something, you weren't accountable for it or something like that. I think you remember saying something like that. Maybe it was somebody else.
I remember that as well. It wasn't, I think they said like if you're standing more than 3 feet back or something
Right.
like that.
Under natural light, that thing.
Under natural light, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was Jay. Yeah, I think a lot of times I would totally reiterate what's been said in that sense, that whenever a customer says they want to buy their own materials or they say they want to GC their own project, at the end of the day, you're going to end up doing that and have not charged for it or billed for it because customers can't really do that. The average Joe is not capable of project managing, doesn't truly have a good list of subcontractors that you can then warranty your work on and things like that. They also wouldn't get the discounts that you get from your suppliers and all of those things. There's plenty of practical reasons that you can give on that. But yeah, the expectations you set up front allow you to come in when scenarios do happen. Because if you present initially as that expert opinion and you're advising them consultatively of, hey, this is how we do it. We know how these projects work because we're doing 20 of these a year, and you may do this once every 20 years, kind of that kind of dichotomy or perspective you can add to the circumstance can alleviate some of that. Mr. Everett, you want to go ahead and chime in here?
I was just kind of add to the whole scheduling thing, delays, typically on a smaller scale, for like the finished carpentry business or, whatever trade you are. If we show up and the GC scheduled trades on top, like scheduled the painters to be in there painting while I'm supposed to be doing, some finished carpentry or whatever it is, I can't work, while they're painting the house. So, hey, that's a trip charge. We had 4 guys on site. This is our trip charge, make sure like the lady said that have that in your language, your contract language, but whatever the trip charge is, hey, we show up and we can't do anything, that's $500 right there, $250, whatever it is, depending on the crew. Because now I may not have anything scheduled for that day. Now I got 4 guys standing around doing nothing, so that I got to pay them for. So that's kind of on a smaller scale, but it's really for a GC on a GC's, from a GC's perspective, to schedule trades. That's an art. A lot of GCs don't even know. They're just scheduling people because they can get them there and get the job done. I don't care. You guys work on top of each other and figure it out. That's usually how it goes out here in Arizona. And we've had to fight that and say, look, we're not working over these guys. We can't make that work. So when a homeowner tries to GC, like you said, they've done it once every 20 years and they have no clue. They're just getting people there. So just make sure you have trip charge language or fees figured out. with them up front. And a lot of the time we would, as it came up, we'd be like, hey, look, this is, we were scheduled to be here today. We obviously can't work. And then you usually work it out with the GC or the homeowner, and they understand typically. So, every case is different, but that's my experience with it.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, really good feedback, guys. Good
The
deal.
other thing in your current situation, Fletcher, it may fall under your change order policy as well, because it's caused alterations to the timeline and the cost of the project, right? So I'd refer to your change order policy and see if, for this specific situation, if it can be handled under that, and then we can add language to the contract moving forward.
Yeah, I've got an agreement, what do they call it, a working agreement that I do have, but I put it together after this job. So
Gotcha.
after this job.
Yeah.
And I
Nice.
say that, maybe I can send it to you. You and I can look over it on a focus call one day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at it this afternoon.
Totally. Nice. Well, what other questions do we have this morning? Another thing you guys want some feedback on? Great feedback and questions this morning. Really good stuff.
So can I?
Hey, is anyone having trouble booking? Oh, go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
Can we circle back to the whole buying a business deal? We're actively looking at possibly acquiring another business. Just wondering if anybody else has done this, and what are some things that just kind of be cautious of, kind of moving forward.
Can you answer your question one more time, Kyle?
Yeah, just kind of circling back to the whole like buying a business deal. We're actively kind of pursuing a business to buy, so like acquire, and just wondering if anybody here has done that process before, and if there's just some things like upfront that we should be kind of looking at or aware of, just so that way it's like we don't get halfway through this if we do proceed with it, and it's like, oh crap, like I wish I would have thought of that earlier or looked at that. So.
You're interested in buying I heard a business, but then you said something specifically. What did you say?
We're in the process of looking at buying out another electrical company, and just kind of curious on, anybody who's gone through that before as far as buying or acquiring another company, and what are some things that we should maybe just keep an eye out for.
Where are you at in the process? Have you signed like a letter of intent or like any sort of non-disclosure agreement?
Nope, not yet. So we've seen all their numbers, and right now they're working on kind of finalizing what they would like to have for an asking price, and then from there they'll kind of negotiate to like an actual like letter of intent. So.
Are you guys working with any sort of business broker?
No.
So that would be my recommendation in the process. And, we don't necessarily broker businesses, but my business partner, who's also the guy I call Dad, has a lot of experience in this process. And I would love to set up a one-on-one meeting with you and him, because my dad and I actually bought a business a couple of years ago together, and the financials looked really, really strong, but it ended up being like very much overly inflated. And so you really want to have someone kind of looking over your shoulder and guiding you and representing you to the other business to make sure that there's nothing that kind of like falls through that's easy to miss, right? And so the things that you want to be looking for right now are the financials, right? Like, do you have a copy of their, past 3 years of their profit and loss statement and balance sheets?
Yeah, we have all that.
So what kind of profitability is the company looking at?
The last 3 years, I think at 23 it was at 14%, and then 24 was at 11, and this year so far year to date is at like 16.
Okay, that's not bad. I wouldn't say that that's great, but that's not bad.
Is that including the owner's pay? Do you know?
Yeah,
that is after everybody's been paid out, including the owner.
Okay. And yeah, Jordan Berry × 1 EBITDA. So that's the kind of where the other question that comes in my head. Oh, sorry, Jordan Russell. I was going to bring up a question that Jordan Berry asked yesterday in the group chat. But so yeah, then the other questions that come up is, how are they determining evaluation? How are they determining their multiple? What are they basing that decision on the purchase price of the actual business? And then Kyle, I think the biggest question for you is, why are you wanting to buy this business? What is it going to give you that you guys couldn't produce yourselves in your own electrical company, right? Is it going to give you, access to more customers? Is it going to give you better marketing? I think that would be the most important question, is why are you wanting to buy this thing? And have that defined real specifically. But what I'd love to do is I'd love to help give you some guidance, because this is like kind of a big time decision. And I'd love to set up a one-on-one meeting. Kyle, who's your coach? Is it Bryce? Bryce, yeah,
Bryce.
I would just work with Kyle to set up a one-on-one meeting in Tim's calendar. And maybe get some notes from Kyle on the details of the situation and the name of the business, and include those financials. I think we could provide you some really good feedback here, Kyle.
Yeah, that works. And Bryce and I had a meeting yesterday, and we talked about it then too. And he,
awesome,
with Tim and stuff. So yeah.
Just curious, why are you wanting to buy it?
I think it'd be a good fit. It's a similar business to ours. Their footprint is just like a couple towns over, so that would expand our footprint. And then they also just have a customer base that is really enticing. That's been just a long time, good customers that I think would suit us very well as well. So.
Yeah, I don't know if Lance just got here. Good to see you, Lance. But he would really be one of the best guys in the group to talk to about this sort of thing.
Sure.
Lance and I have led a couple of workshops this year on how to sell your contractor business. And Lance helped me bring in a really accomplished business broker, a guy named Mike Feynman, who owns Texas Business Brokers, who's brokered, thousands of deals, a lot of them being for contractors. Who helped Lance, broker his deal. So Lance just provided his email, and he would be a really, really great person to talk to as well. And yeah, that's what I'd recommend doing at this point, is doing exactly what you're doing here, getting guidance, getting advice. I would not move forward unless you had someone in a broker-like role of some kind.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
One thing I'll add to Kyle from a recent experience from someone else in buying a business is making sure you can tell a lot, of course, by the financials and looking at the customer list and things like that, seeing what systems are in place, what assets they have, and all of those things. But one thing that's a little harder to suss out until you're in, actual conversations and deeper in the process is making sure that the business itself is not completely owner dependent, in the sense that if and when they leave, no more work comes in because they're the ones generating it, either through, direct contact, some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, like the, personal connections. But if they have a good database of their customer emails, that's a good sign that it's not so owner dependent. Or if they're in like regular email campaigns, that's a good sign that it's not so owner dependent. Where their marketing sources are coming from, also a good sign that it's not so owner dependent. And if it is, it's very common for that to be part of the negotiation process, to have the owner stay for some period of time to transition the business or to backfill that role. So that's one recent experience to kind of color is like thing to watch out for, is making sure to what extent does the owner play a role in keeping the business afloat, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you want to think about like realistically, right? Like based upon the size of the business, how many trucks they have running, like what would happen if the owner of this business left? A lot of times small businesses would fall apart, if the owner left. And that makes the business like completely worthless. And then you're stuck maybe with a huge payment agreement or a huge SBA loan, right? Like these things really happen. So that I'm really glad Bryce brought that up, because that is a really important question to consider. Is you, Kyle, you're experienced enough and you know enough about this business to be able to say, okay, if they left, what would happen? Would other employees leave? Right? Would customers not want to book? Is the value of the customer base dependent upon relationships with the owner or with the way he does things? And that's what a business broker really helps with. A business broker really helps securing. I mean, they go really deep into the financials with you, and they negotiate on your behalf, and they do all sorts of valuable things. But they also help secure a deal where they would like negotiate on your behalf to maybe keep the owner there for a certain amount of time, or make sure that the owner isn't telling the staff, hey, we're interested in selling our business, which would cause people to even most of the time unnecessarily get concerned and maybe leave. And now you're walking to the business where you've got this payment, or you've just made this big payment, and you're like, I got to hire people for this new business. So these are the kind of this is why you get a business broker, is to help with these things. That's why we're recommending it. So yeah, but I think my dad can serve in that capacity to a large extent. I'm not sure if he's going to want to like be your broker, but he's gone through like business brokering training. He's sold a number of businesses, bought businesses. He's a CPA, and so we can really help you out.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Cool. Hey, I don't know if people saw in the group chat, Jordan Berry asked a question yesterday, and I'm just curious to get people's feedback. I don't know if Jordan's even on this call right now, but he asked, hey, what does everyone do for service area distances? Do you go by radius and miles, or do you go by length of drive? We keep getting calls for places about an hour and 20 minutes away from us, still wanting service. Not sure if it's worth taking those or not. I'm guessing if you're slow, it's a great way to fill in the schedule, but then not take them if you're really busy. That being said, if you do that, then that's some new customer you just added to your base that will still want you to come out when they have needs. Yeah. So the thing I like about part of what Jordan's question is, he's already tapping into this like idea of relativity a little bit, where those decisions can be based upon the size of a deal, the size of a business need, whether or not they're willing to pay out additional costs that may be involved in travel. If someone's willing to pay out the costs and they're willing to pay your profit margin and it keeps your team busy, I don't really see any reason to not do it. But Lance, why don't you go ahead and share?
Yeah, I was going to say, morning, everybody. I was going to say that I agree with you that, why not? There's probably a lot more reasons to do it than not to do it. My rule of thumb, because we at one point were servicing other states, my rule of thumb is if I can't service them as if they were a mile down the road, the same, as, you know, then in the same way, in the same capacity, then I can't do it. You know, if the guys are going to be reluctant, or we're going to have to charge, or we're not going to want to go, or it's going to be some big deal to go for a callback to do something small.
Right.
That's that's too far. That's kind of my rule of thumb.
I think that's a really good rule of thumb. Yeah, what other feedback? Jordan.
In Nebraska, one thing we have to think about too is outside of Omaha, the state is very sparsely populated. And so you can run into a situation where not only is the job an hour away, but it's an hour to get parts if you need to get parts. So if you do take a job that's far away, like explain this to I always do a call before we even talk about it. And I'm like, hey, we're going to need above and beyond pictures, videos, because we got to come with the right stuff. Getting parts is a nightmare for a job like this. So.
That's great. Jeff Stewart, great name, by the way.
Hey, thank you. So I'm in Kansas City, and we work on the Kansas side, Missouri side, and especially on the Missouri side. Missouri's a big area. I mean, I guess Kansas is too, but Missouri can get really big. But we did some projects where it was North Kansas City. I tried to take into consideration my team, so my superintendent, my project manager, who both live in South Kansas City, and what is their drive time? I'm not out in the field very much. They are every day, so that's a big. It's really about 30 minutes, maybe 45, depending on the project. If it's a big project, and I talked to my team first, and they say, okay, yeah, let's go take a big home addition or something type project. Maybe we'll go 45 minutes, but usually it's about 30 minutes because they're driving there almost every day, if not at least multiple times a day. So anyway, I've also tried to take my subcontractors into consideration, but that's impossible because they're all over the place. So it's really just my team and being mindful of drive time, fuel costs, all of that.
So you're saying, so I'm taking some notes. I'm going to back to Jordan. You're saying it's really like, hey, you look at where your team is based out of. If you said your project manager superintendent is based in North Kansas City, well, that may open you up to do more projects a little bit further north than, wherever you live in Kansas City, where you might be willing to do, because you already have some essential team members that it wouldn't be, adding 20 minutes to their drive, maybe adding 50 minutes to yours, but that could be an opportunity because it's only adding 20 minutes to their drive. Is the kind of concept you're saying.
Yep. That's right.
My dad needs his key to the office.
That's all right. It's about that time anyways. We know you guys got a lot going on this week coming out of the holiday from last week. So unless you have any other burning thoughts or questions we want to add here, we can get you guys out in the rest of your week here. We'll finish the same way we always do. Have everyone unmute your mics. We'll do growth on 3 and launch out into the rest of the week here. Appreciate y'all being here. So growth on 3. 1, 2, 3. Grow.